Hello again, everybody. This is Derek, and I am coming back at you with another wargaming and miniature video. And in this video, we're going to continue on with my American War of Independence project updates. And the figures that I've painted so far between this update are various limbers. Limber bases for the artillery in Land of the Free. I'm going to show the limbers first, and then we're going to discuss a little bit about how I plan to implement them, and then I'm going to show off the new book that I just received. All right, so these limbers, there's two manufacturers. One of them is Blue Moon, and another one is Stone Mountain. The Blue Moon ones, because I mixed them up and used horses and riders from all the different packs, because I basically combined them, I don't know which limbers are which and which figures are which. I do believe that this limber here is the Blue Moon limber, and I also believe that these horses are part of the Blue Moon collection, but I think the rider might have been out of the Stone Mountain. He might have been Blue Moon. I don't know. Okay, so this base is 40 by 80. Let me show you the second one. This one is also 40 by 80. And I've considered taking a little bit of string and running it from the first horse to the second horse, but I don't think it's necessary. I think it still shows the what needs to be shown, but I probably could always add it later. I only have 2 riders and 2 handlers on foot, so and I've done 6 limbers, so some of my limbers will not have any rider or handlers. Okay, now this base size is 40 by 50. But now it only has 1 horse, so it's a 1 horse limber. I plan to use 1 horse limbers predominantly for all the different gun sizes. The 2 horse limbers I will use if there's 12 pounders or larger. But with your 6 pounders, you can use a 1 horse limber, or even the 3 pounders will be a 1 horse limber. And I'll show you the limbers that I made for that as well. And I think this one here is a Stone Mountain limber, but a Blue Moon horse. I think you can see it's the wheels are a lot thicker, lower to the ground, and everything about the limber is just a little bit more chunky, which is perfectly fine. All right, let me show you the next one. Also a 40 by 50. 40 by 50 was the size of choice. I considered 40 by 60 just for I don't know, measurement balances, but it wound up being too long. It was a wasted base space, is what I thought. All right, let me show you these next 2 I find kind of interesting. All right, now this is a limber horse. I think it came out of the Stone Mountain with this handler, and I added uh, the galloper gun harness or limber. You can see the pieces of wood, the 4 pieces of wood on the back side of the horse. Um, that would have been attached to the horse with a harness, and you can see the chain going over the backside of the horse. And there would have been an attachment or a hook for you to hook up a very light gun, and it's positioned in a way where there's no need for any wheels because the limber would be elevated and it would just pull on the the carriage of the gun without without it even getting close to the ground. I saw this in another from another source, and I figured I could easily make this. So that wooden limber is actually made by toothpicks. And this is technically the same thing. You got the driver, the handler, the horse, and a toothpick limber. And this would be good for 3-pound galloper guns. All right, now let me show you how I plan to use these in my game. All right, now this is the discussion part of this video. As you know, I've got 2 limbers that I put on 40 by 80s. These guys are gigantic limbers, and I don't want to use these limbers predominantly. I want to use 1-horse limbers predominantly. And then here is the galloper limbers. Now, these limbers are on, same as artillery pieces, they are 40 by 40s. All right, so the British have different size guns. Everybody has different size guns, but these are 6-pounders. This is a 12-pounder. It doesn't really matter. I just grabbed some guns because they're all going to be on 40 by 40s anyway, unless I get some massive gun that needs to be on a larger base. But even the smallest gun, like this American Grasshopper gun, I still put it on a 40 by 40 just to keep all my artillery pretty much uniform and in the same exact base size. Now, if you've been following my Land of the Free boot camp, which I just uploaded the discipline and morale video, so you should be able to check that one out. But if you've been following the boot camp, then you know that limbers are not even discussed. They're not part of the rules system. There's no rules for limbers. The way a artillery battery would be displayed is you have a single gun. That would be a small battery. They do not have any tiny batteries in Land of the Free, but they do have small batteries. They have medium. Well, okay. Let me back up a little bit. The way Land of the Free shows off small, medium, and large, and tiny, is that a tiny element would be only 1 base. and a small element would be 2 bases. And medium, which is your normal size or medium, would be 3 bases. And their large would be 5 bases of artillery. Okay, well, that is straight out of the book, but that's not how I'm going to display it, because I've noticed that it looks to me, based on doing a little bit of picture research, that that's not how they do it in the book, in the diagrams. In the diagrams, they show, first of all, artillery does not have any tiny elements, so there wouldn't be anything with 1 base. Their start would be with 2 bases. But in the pictures, there are elements that have just 1 base. And this makes sense to me, where I would put a single artillery piece and call that a small battery. And then 2 guns, which is what you see in most games as being your normal size artillery battery. For most of my Napoleonic games, or any other games that I play, 2 guns would represent a full battery or a medium-sized battery. And that's what I'm going to do in my Land of the Free. I'm going to use 1 for small and 2 for medium. And I'm not going to get crazy and go with 5 bases for large. I'm just going to go with 3. That's a large battery. That's a standard battery, medium. And that's a small battery. Simple enough, right? Okay. And in the rules, the way they denote, because they don't use limber miniatures, the way they denote, and it's an easy way, and there's nothing wrong with this way to do it, and it's very convenient, and it doesn't require possessing or owning any limber figures. But I just like the look of limbers on the table. When they are deployed, they are unlimbered, and the way the rules state, you can have up to 1 inch between guns, and that would still be considered cohesive, right? They're like they're in open order. But I think that is probably more appropriate. And then they say when you limber, and you like hook up to your limbers and you get ready for movement, you just put your figures in a Ranger file, Indian file, or single file, and now you're considered limbered. And this works out fine, right? You just move around the table like that. With your facing this way, just like the gun is facing, you don't turn the guns around like in Napoleon's battles, or anything like that, right? You just, how you deploy your bases determines if you are limbered or unlimbered. And there's really only 2 formations for artillery. That's limbered or unlimbered. But because I want to use limber models, I would have to come up with devise a different way to think about this. Almost every battery in the games are medium-sized batteries. So I would take this 12-pounder off and just go like this. This is your standard artillery battery. And they would have a limber model, which if you think about it, if you think about this, like I was just discussing earlier with how many bases are in a unit, 3 bases would be the medium-sized element, right? And 2 bases would be uh, a small element according to the rules, right? So if there was just one gun, I would give him one his second base. Basically, the third base or the the number of bases would include the limber model, so that makes it pretty convenient. Now, when I go to now this is unlimbered, obviously, and I would take the limber and deploy it centered in the back of whatever battery you're doing. And that could be like that if you want, but I would only use this base for a large battery. Now remember, a large battery is 3 guns, right? But with this 2 base size limber, that brings it to a total of 5 bases. If you think about it, it's occupying 5 bases of territory. So that would work perfectly fine for a large battery. But your medium batteries, 3 bases, one being a limber. A small battery being 1 gun and 1 limber, that's your 2. And then a tiny, which doesn't exist. So, so you don't have to, you'll never have just 1 gun on the table. Now, the Americans have this 3-pound Galloper gun, and what I would use is a base the same size. Okay, so this is the, and you notice I'm not putting it like this or like this because that might give you the wrong impression, thinking that this gun is limbered. So I turn this base sideways, showing that it's definitively disconnected. And then if I needed to limber it up, I would just swap this for the front of the gun, and the back gun can face the same way if you want, or you can turn it around to kind of make it look like the gun is hooked onto the limber or something like that. That's perfectly fine, but this limber base is the direction of travel, or the front of the base. So that's what I'm planning on doing with my Galloper guns. Now my British guns, they're going to have, almost all of them are going to have a 6-pounders. There is a battery in Freeman's farm of British 3-pounders, so I do plan to use this limber for those. But if I was to do that, it'll work with any artillery, the Hessians or whoever. You just take the leader base, whichever one is your leader base. You replace it with the limber base, and then you just put the other 2 in trail behind it. And there you go. So that's how I plan to do limbers with Land of the Free. I'm going to basically treat the limber as one of the bases counted towards the artillery battery, and everything should work fine. Got 2 guns, which is going to be like your standard artillery battery, and limber. So that's a total of 3 bases, which is exactly what a standard artillery battery should be. And then if you're going large, and I don't mean large as in the size of the gun, I'm talking about the number of guns, we'll add the larger limber like that. Um, I could, like, if in a pinch, if I needed to, like, if I run out of limbers, I don't see a problem, like with your two gun batteries, to have the third base be extra large, right? I don't see a problem with that because it's only one base variation. So instead of a three bases, it's kind of like the same territory as a four base unit, which is not going to be that big of a deal. So that would be in a pinch. Now I pulled up my list of units completed for Freeman's farm, and it looks like Hamilton has a 6 pound battery, right? So we'll do that, right? So that's Hamilton. Now, Poor's Brigade has a grasshopper gun, so that would be the grasshopper gun. It's one gun and limper. Now, Frazier's Brigade, which is the Grenadiers light units, they have a 3 pounder and a 6 pound battery. So I would use 3 pound and 6 pound limbers, right? And then finally, the Hessians have a 6 pound battery as well. And so I would be forced to use one of these large limbers. Now, because Hamilton's artillery, I don't think will ever sally forth from the fortress, I probably don't even need to use any limbers for them, and I can put this in the fortress just in case, and then use this for the Brunswickers. Yeah, so that should be. I should have enough. Well, I do have enough limbers. I'm just not sure about these extra large limbers. I want to maybe make a couple more limbers like this, but I don't have any of the carriages. So I might put an order in for just 2 or 4 more carriages. They come in packs of 2. So a 4 carriage limber would give me 10 limbers, and I would have way more than enough, as far as I know, for all of the batteries that might be on the table. All right, now I did receive my Osprey Saratoga book, uh, and I did look through it a little bit. I haven't read it yet, but I did kind of just glance through it. So, not all of the units have their strengths. I was hoping that this book would have the strength of every unit for each battle. That way, I would know how many bases or what size units they needed to be. Uh, Plus, uh, and I thought that was kind of cute. They're telling me the military symbols uh, on the map. I already know what all those are. I'm dealing with that forever. Okay, it talks about the road, the opposing commanders. It gives a little history of each of the different major movers and shakers, uh, and some I didn't even realize. But like when it comes to the orders of battle, right? Um, it talks about the Canada Army, which even though they're fighting in the colonies, they're still called the Canada Army because of their trip up north and back south and all that. But it's John Burgoyne. And then you're talking about their headquarters, and you can see the numbers of troops. Uh, but just because they're they're in the army doesn't mean they were at the battle, because he split his army into a variety of different wings and all that stuff. But we've got the Royal Artillery, the Canadian Artillery, the Hesse-Hanau Artillery. Uh, and he's talking about how he's got 12 pounders, 6 pounders, howitzers. He's got an 8-inch howitzer and a 5.5-inch howitzer. That's interesting. And then his center brigade has 2 light 24 pounders. That kind of doesn't make sense to me. 24 pounder being a light. Okay, and then I guess they're light because they're maybe on wheels or something. I'll have to look into that. But he's got his right wing with Fraser. And he says 24 foot, but you got artillery, you got a corps of marksmen, looks like 100 men. But then you got the Grenadier Battalion, which is companies from all of these regiments, for a total of 600 men. Now, if I'm doing each base is approximately 120 men or something like that, that would still be uh, about 5 bases. That would be exactly 5 bases. So that would be a large battalion. Then you got your light battalion, 580. So that's about the same. And then you got your 1st Brigade, which they've got Henry Powell. But then you've got the 9th, the 47th, and the 53rd. But that's not who fought at the Freeman's Farm, right? The 20th, the 21st, the 62nd, 2nd Brigade fought alongside the 9th. And then you got Riddisel. He has 4 6-pounders. That's good to know. But then when you look at the advanced corps under Bremen, he had 6-pounders and 3-pounders, Grenadier Battalion, Light Battalion, and a Jaeger Company. And then 1st Brigade was Retz, Specht, and Riddlesel's regiments. They all have 512. And then all these other regiments are not even, didn't participate in Freeman's Farm. But then when you look here, you got Hubbardton, Bennington, and then it goes to the American forces. And remember, this is the entire army. You got Poor with his New Hampshire regiments. And then Patterson with his Massachusetts regiments. Fermoy with a mixture of militias, looks like. And remember, that's June and July. And we're needing September. So here's Bennington in August. So if I run a Bennington battle, I'll have good numbers. And then there's September and October. But you'll start to see that the numbers per regiment have kind of disappeared in a way. The left wing under Benedict Arnold up to September 26th, taken over by Lincoln up until October. So the advance guard is Morgan. He's got his rifles and his light infantry. But you'll notice it doesn't say, okay, in fine print, the rifleman in 374 out fit and present out of his 578. The rest were sick. And 300 light infantry were drawn from each brigade and are included among those in command. Okay. And there's Dearborn and Morgan. Now, poor, you notice the dates, September and October, but it doesn't say how many men are in each regiment. It just says there's a total of 1292. And some of them were sick. 356 were sick. I'll have to find out. But it shows 1st, 2nd, and 3rd New Hampshire, 2nd and 4th New York, 1st Connecticut Militia, the 2nd Connecticut Militia. Both of them arrived September 12th. Then you got Learned, says total number. And there says Massachusetts and Canadian. And then he has New Hampshire Militia, but they arrived after October 7th, which would not have been at Freeman's Farm. And then the right wing, not there, not present. They would be somewhere else. So you have Morgan, Poor, and Learned. And then there's also independent companies. And there's Stark. Whipple, Bailey, and it says how many men are in these units, and there's lots of men. Okay, so that definitely will help when it comes to organizing. But then it goes into the movement of like Ticonderoga, Hubbardton. There's Hubbardton, where the units were placed. St. Leger's expedition. I think that's a pretty cool uniform color combination. I might paint them up. They're loyalists, but that's okay. Bennington. Siege of Fort Stanwix. Oriskany. A lot of these battles have scenarios already printed, but I would compare them. And these guys look like Brunswickers. And there's the first battle of Saratoga, which is Freeman's farm. Tells you where all the units are. Right here, you know, Fraser's marksmen, the Canadians, the Loyalists, light infantry, the artillery park and baggage. Where Riddisel, Speck, and Retz were all located. Dearborn. And then here's the fighting around Freeman's farm. It gives a really good like a top-down map. Got Coulter's farm, Freeman's farm, got the cornfield. You got Fraser up here. You got Bremen coming in from the North Road there. Hamilton. And it basically only shows the riflemen and the light infantry. And then by 1500, you got the New Hampshire regiments, Connecticut militia. You got the light infantry over there. And then it shows where all the British were at. But they've got their light infantry and Jaegers and Canadians from Bremen up here. And the British light infantry are there. Looks like you got Grenadiers and the 24th from Fraser. Down here near Coulter's farm. Looks like there's some more Connecticut militia over here, Lattimore. And then at 5 o'clock, it's basically showing where the lines are drawn. Grenadiers, 24th, Jaegers, light infantry, 9. It's showing the different artillery batteries, 21st, 62nd, and the 20th. Retz is down here. Riflemen are over there. So it looks like the Brunswickers are, okay, the Brunswick artillery is up on this northern road, right? And they position themselves right in there. But it looks like Retz is coming in from this road. But he comes in really late. I'll have to look into that. It doesn't seem exactly right. And then, of course, it talks about the second Battle of Saratoga, which is what, Bemis Heights? And how that was organized and who fought there. And then they got Burgoyne's camp at Saratoga, which you can see that they're surrounded. And that's, I suppose, where they surrendered. So yeah, this book's got a lot of good information. Also, it's even got directions to like national monuments. Yeah, but I haven't read it yet. I plan to. So that's my update, right? I got my limbers done. I've got my book in, and we'll figure it out from there. All right, guys, thanks for coming out and checking out this video, and I will catch you in the next update.